Okay, this is the social cognitive theory, and this was developed by Bandura in 1986. Very well known, well studied theory, and trans-theoretical model and others draw from the social cognitive theory. Uh, so a lot of ideas that are a little more general that lend themselves very well to kind of being used in different theories. Very successful changing physical activity. Basically, it's a pretty simple concept. Basically, saying that we have our environment, we have our interactions, and then we have our personal factors, including our cognitions that affect this theory. And so here we look, self-efficacy technically would be part of the personal characteristics, but it's just in the middle on the diagram here to kind of show, or just to make sure that it's indeed present there. So as we said, we have personal characteristics, we have the behaviors and reinforcements, positive or negative, that are happening, and then we have environmental factors. So this theory is used with health education because it uses cognitive, emotional, and behavior understandings. And so that's really kind of what sets it apart from other theories. And so that's why it's used in so many different applications. So these personal characteristics, these are very general categories. And so previous experience with the behavior, cognition's thoughts about it, positive or negative, person's health status, what expectations they have, all that would fall within personal characteristics. And then the behavior. So are we talking about quitting something that is enjoyed but is understood to be harmful, like smoking cigarettes? Or is it beginning a new activity and what comes with that? So there are differences between quitting a behavior or starting a behavior, but those are all the behavioral factors. And then environmental factors, what access to resources does somebody have? Or do they have support systems? So a lot of those kind of outside factors can play a big role with social cognitive theory. And of course, we talked about self-efficacy. So a person, this kind of goes along with these cognitions. A person must believe that positive outcomes will result. So you see with a certain behavior. And so you see how this relates to the health belief model, where there in that model, it's all about the perceptions of susceptibility, severity, and perception of threat, and so forth. So with social cognitive theory, there are some parallels there, just kind of the thoughts about a given behavior, and is there an expectation that something good's going to happen if I do this, or stop doing this? And so that will kind of play into this theory. Okay, so then we have there's a lot of detail with this theory, and so for those of you who are assigned this theory, once again, as I say with each one, you'll want to dive a little bit deeper and understand some of these items. So this reciprocal determinism, kind of interacting, all of the factors interacting together, the personal factors, the behavioral, and the environmental factors, they all generate an outcome, and there's a dynamic interplay between these different characteristics. So the environment can certainly be, it's something that's external to the individual and can have a huge impact on behavior. So this could be the smoker. If they keep going to the bar where they always drink with their friends and always smoke, that environment is going to be very conducive to continuing smoking. And so sometimes it could have almost like a negative factor. If you're in the wrong place, you're going to be likely to engage in a behavior that's undesirable. But then also, if you are at a gym, or if you live in an environment where people are out exercising and being active, and you see that on a daily basis, that environment can be helpful to positive behavior. So the environment plays a huge role, and then situation is just that individual's perception of the environment. Observational learning, a lot of people will observe other people, uh, it maybe in a positive or a negative way. Someone smoking and involved with drugs and bad things are happening in their life, and so they learn from observing others. Or somebody who has lost a significant amount of weight and has become more fit, and they observe all of that and learn from it. So, and then, if we're talking about picking up a new behavior, that behavioral capability, the knowledge and skill to perform a specific behavior is important. So if you're going to a person says, I want to start exercising, but they know nothing about exercising, that can have a huge impact. They can injure themselves and get discouraged and not want to move forward. On the other hand, if they've exercised in the past or have knowledge about it, then that may facilitate them starting to exercise. So reinforcement is hugely important in the social cognitive theory. There's positive and negative reinforcement, direct versus vicarious. And so if you think back to the graph of this or diagram of this theory, it's just that simple circle with personal factors, environmental factors, and behavioral factors. And so the reinforcements that are coming from a lot of these different areas will have a huge impact on the social cognitive theory. And then there's outcome expectations, where an individual is going to have something in their mind that's going to happen if they, positive or negative, but if they continue or begin a behavior, there are certain expectations. And this just shows the 4 ways that an individual has these expectations. It could be previous experience, observing others, hearing about others, or a personal response they had to behaviors. So these outcome expectancies, that kind of dictates what value a person's going to place on it. If there are many different incentives to begin exercising, for example, they can actually have a quantitative value. I can be stronger, I can look better, I can sleep better, I can be more focused mentally. If they get all of these different positive outcomes of exercise, those can all add up together to help the individual take that action. So once again, self-efficacy, I promised you that it would be in pretty much every theory that we're talking about. So Bandura has said that self-efficacy is the most important prerequisite, and it makes sense. And the interesting thing about self-efficacy is that it generally takes another individual helping someone to kind of ask those questions. What are the perceived barriers? Why do you think this is going to be a challenge to change this behavior? And talking through that will often then help the individual to be aware of what these perceived barriers are so they can do something about them. So some additional concepts for social cognitive theory. Basically, the individual's ability to kind of manage themselves and be aware of these reinforcements, whether it's positive or negative, and managing their emotional arousal. Some people, they know that they're going to be tempted to smoke at a given time, or when certain things are happening, or they're going to have more of a challenge exercising when certain things are happening. And so just kind of knowing themselves and managing themselves. So a little more specifics about self-efficacy, these 3 conceptual domains, having to be able to understand what it is that we're talking about, and then having a confidence in their ability to use that motivation and resources to overcome barriers, and also having the confidence to execute a specific task. So it all kind of comes down to that simple definition of confidence to take a certain behavior, but this breaks it down just a little bit more. And so ways to enhance self-efficacy, repetitive but achievable accomplishments, which makes sense, right? Short-term goals. You set yourself up to succeed, so you want to repetitively be successful. So if you're starting an exercise program, you want to start small and have achievable goals, knowing that this will help your confidence and help you move forward, as opposed to I'm not doing anything right now, but my goal is to run a marathon next month. That individual setting him or herself up for failure because it's just not achievable. And then if you're going to, for example, start exercising, exposing yourself to individuals who are exercising, just having exposure to that will, you can share in the experiences of others, and hopefully that can be helpful. And so persuasion by others, if you want to exercise and you're really serious about making that a goal, be around people who exercise, talk to people about exercise, research these activities, find what types of exercise are going to be most suitable to you, that you're going to enjoy and do well at, avoid getting injured, and so forth. And then this last bullet point kind of talks a little bit about a previous one where we talked about that emotional arousal. And so with different behavior that maybe someone is trying in the beginning stages, being aware of how they feel before, during, and after can really help them. It's kind of like the runner's high, or just the endorphin release after exercising. What are the individual's energy levels like on days that they exercise compared to days that they don't? Things like that can help to overcome barriers and improve self-efficacy. So we've seen this before in another theory, just basically a way to kind of measure an individual's self-efficacy for exercise. This is how you can use that scale to do that. And then these are a couple of studies for social cognitive theory. So again, if you're assigned this theory, look these ones and others up so you can understand a little bit about how this theory has been applied. And here's another one, another study that talks about self-efficacy. And so that will do it for this theory.